Whatever comes to mind.
About what?
I don't know.
I don't know what to say.
That's fine. Ready?
Ready.
What's up, everybody? My name is Jesse, and welcome to the Jess Takes a Village podcast, where we focus on regular people who have used their education, whether it be formal, vocational, or even life experiences, to propel their lives in a positive direction. Like the intro?
I love
It's
the
corny,
intro.
though. It's corny.
No, it's not. It's
It's
cool.
corny. Ladies and gentlemen, to my left, also known as your right, is somebody I've known since 9th grade, since 2007. I wish I could tell you the journey myself, but it would be a whole lot easier if you hear from the person right next to me. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Sweetie to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
No problem.
It's a pleasure to see it.
Yeah,
We
I
spoke about
remember,
it.
what, last week or a week and a half ago to the day you were supposed to come. But you let me know I was in advance, which is recommended for those who want to cancel.
3 days in advance.
Yeah.
At least 3 days in advance.
You know, I have to go to work. Now, one of the best parts about it, and this is where, I feel like we should start. You couldn't make it because you went to work. What exactly do you do for a living?
What don't I do? So right now I'm doing dental assisting, but I'm cross-trained between the front desk and the back.
Okay.
So right now in the office that I'm at, I do both. So if someone can't come in or they're short, whatever, like I fill in any space. The only thing I can't do is actually treat the patient.
Absolutely.
Yet.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So that's in minutes.
That's in the works.
So I'm wondering, right? And now, usually on the show, a couple guests ago, we had a physician's assistant.
I saw that. It was
Yeah,
a good
and
episode.
I was telling myself, I would like to have more people in the medical field because I feel like that's such an untapped field. Because obviously, you have your nurses, you have the few ones who actually strive to be MDs and your physician's assistant. But there's a whole other side of the medical field, the dental world, dentistry. So why that field to start? Like, what about it stands out to you the most?
What I'll say is I took a summer program with Harvard, and it was the first time that I heard dentistry be included with medicine.
Yeah.
So what they like to say is that dentistry is what's the word? It's a specialty of medicine. It's
Absolutely.
one system, right?
Right.
So for me, my bad experiences made me want to get into dentistry.
Wow.
So whenever I went to the dental office, it was always something. And I always felt like it felt transactional. It never felt like I knew what was going on. I didn't know the dentist.
It's never interpersonal. Right.
Right. So I was always curious, like, who's letting these people out here? Like, what's the curriculum? What are the standards of people that are out here, especially in the neighborhoods that we grew up in?
And that's another thing I wanted to get into too, because I've been to the dentist because of my mom every 6 months, twice a year, for like my whole life.
Exactly.
And when I walk into the dental office, I don't really see people who look like me doing the dental work. You understand what I'm saying? Obviously, we'll see them in the front desk, and I'm not job shaming or anything, but usually in the field, especially living within New York City, like my dentist she's Ukrainian, right? The whole office is Ukrainian. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, they're not barriers, but there are certain fields where you're going to see predominantly one group of people. So as being someone of color, what does that mean to actually break into the field?
It's intimidating.
I can only imagine.
It's super intimidating because again, you don't see yourself. Cheers. Right? Cheers.
Yeah.
You don't see yourself in the field. So for me, it's taken me forever to just get to where I'm at now, especially because I didn't have anyone around that I can ask for the steps or like, how do you get there? What do you do? I literally was just winging it all the way. One, you feel shame to ask questions.
Absolutely.
Because some groups don't feel as welcoming.
Absolutely.
Getting into the medical field literally feels like you gotta bang the doors, you gotta make noise, you gotta be loud, and to get noticed, to be like, oh, okay, this person actually wants to pursue this.
Absolutely.
And I also experienced people that you start with that look like you, and along the way, life starts to happen. Things change, and not everybody makes it as far.
I was saying that literally a couple episodes ago. There's a certain luxury of going to school, and it's a whole different luxury to be able to finish. because there's that pathway along the line. Like when the kids in my class ask me, Mr. Jesse, how long were you in college for? And
Whatever.
I'm like, listen, I went 2011 to 2014 at LIU. I transferred out, went to Brooklyn College, 14 to 16, got the bachelor's. I had to wait, a couple years. The GPA wasn't the highest. I got into grad school at 2019, and I finished 2022. So I understand I appreciate that. I understand the path, but likewise, it's the same thing for you too. Now, I'm not saying we blame anybody, right?
No.
Obviously not. But I'm gonna blame my college advisor at high school.
I got beef with college advisors.
Because for those who didn't know, we went to the same high school, and I didn't want to call her name, but when I asked for the CUNY fee waiver,
what house were you in?
A house.
Oh, I was in
accounting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I went and I said, "Hey, Dr. Powell, can I get a CUNY fee waiver?" She's like, "You ain't graduating." And I'm just like, and I had credits up to date. I never seen a credit recovery class in my life, but it just goes to show you how the lack of help and the lack of support. Now, you leave high school. Where do you go for college?
So high school was funny for me. I did really well up until my junior year.
Yeah.
And then things kind of went downhill. Home stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
As a teenage girl navigating my own,
Absolutely.
I went to my dream school was like UConn. But my grades were not UConn worthy. So I had to go to a community college. So my whole thing was to go as far as I could.
Okay.
So I didn't even pick based on curriculum. I didn't pick based off anything. Geography. I was just like, what's the furthest thing? Yeah. But still kind of in New York. So I went to a community college called Fulton Montgomery.
Fulton Montgomery. Where is that?
So it's an hour past Albany. It's in a town called Johnstown.
I'm thinking.
Yeah, it was far.
Yeah.
It was far, and that was the first time I ever been out of my home. I never even did sleepovers. Like that was my first time out.
Caribbean people don't let their kids sleep over.
They could come in the morning.
Yeah.
So I went to Fulton Montgomery. I did 1 year there, and I failed everything. Like everything.
Like when I shake, I'm not nodding it off, but it's so normal. My first semester in college, I was on academic probation. I didn't know what was happening.
Was.
I didn't know.
And the thing is, when you're first generation as
well,
right?
Absolutely.
So you do your own paperwork.
Everything.
You do everything alone.
Everything.
So when I went financial aid, I did alone. Everything I did alone. I didn't know about work study. I didn't know about anything. So I was just broke up there in college. Didn't know what classes I was taking. The advisor was just like, if this is what you're taking, this is what it is. I didn't have a career path. I didn't have a major. I couldn't even tell you what the major was. And I fell into like depression while I was there. It was far. There was the college food was disgusting.
I was living off $1 pizzas for like 4 years. I'm not to cut you. I'm not downplaying what you went through, but it seems to me that everybody that I know or we've known who've started school and didn't really have that support, being a first generation to parents who are from here, you go into that world and you're literally like,
I wish that we would all speak up though, because if we all found each other, I feel like we would get so much further. I feel like you isolate yourself in those times, and that's what I did a lot.
Absolutely, because you feel. Listen, internally, you feel nobody really understands me. It's not like you could call your parents and say, "Hey, this paper was a little hard. I didn't cite properly. They dropped my grade down." They're gonna be like, "What?" You understand what I'm saying? They do it again, but it's like when there's nobody to reach out to, you kind of hold that near and dear to your heart, because then when you get older and you see a young person coming up, you have no choice but to help them. Hence the platform. The little girls in my class watch this all the time. Other people watch this, so it's good for them to see. And I'm not gonna be sexist, but it's better coming from you, a woman who's actually making strides, than me, because you guys will relate more. Like, oh, well, I want to be like her when I grow up, and she was just like me. So you're in the school, the depression hits. Right?
I withdrew.
You don't know what's going on. What happens next?
I withdrew.
Get out of there. That's it.
Came back home. At that time, I had just turned 21.
Right?
No, not even. I was 20. Whatever. I'm skipping a step. I came back home. I took the semester off. I got a job at Abercrombie & Fitch on 5th.
Of course.
And I was doing that, and I found Dutchess Community College, because I was still, once I got back into work, in the work environment, I was like, oh hell no, I can't do this transactional thing my entire life. Like
Right.
I gotta get back in school. My mom's fear was always like, you're gonna start making money and you're not gonna want to go to school. The complete opposite. I was like, this is my check. After I just bust my butt, I gotta go back. So I ended up going to Dutchess, which is in Poughkeepsie. At that time, I
You
was
in these
commuting.
places where it's mad cold.
I just wanted to be
I get
away.
it. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
I wanted to be away, so I went to Dutchess. I didn't do as well there, but I started to get an idea.
Of course, you get familiar.
Right. So I started to, my grades improved, but I was still taking classes that had nothing to do with dentistry. I was in dance. I was in
prereqs.
Just random things.
60 credits worth of BS.
Yeah. And so while I was at Dutchess, I did meet an advisor that kind of gave me some direction. And then it got in my idea that I wanted to leave the state.
There we go.
I wanted to leave New York.
So you got it in your head. New York is out of the equation. It seems to me that during that point in your life, there was so much going on in New York. So to give advice to everybody who's watching this, if you're ever in a space and it's just not adding up for you, it's not supporting you, remove yourself. Now, I'm not saying just jump the gun and just go every time you don't feel comfy. But if you actually gave it an honest effort and it's just not clicking, remove yourself, go someplace else, regather, and see if you can float someplace else. Because so many times we'll try to stick it out. And that goes for anything in life. Whether it be school, relationships, jobs, connections, wanting to build a business. If it's not working and you gave it an honest effort, you got to remove yourself from the equation for your mental health sake. So you leave New York. Where's the next stop?
Miami.
2015
in Miami.
Right.
So I enrolled into another community college because my grades still weren't.
You're like the community college queen right now.
Like, if you need to know anything about community college, financial aid, I'm your girl. I went to Miami-Dade Community College. So I really wanted to go to California, but none of my credits transferred. So the most cost efficient and the ones that took my credits was Miami-Dade Community College.
And not to think, once again, there are times when you're in college and you want to go to another school, you think, hey, you could take everything with you. It does not work like that. I left LIU with 75 in the associates. Brooklyn College only took 63 and no associates. So it wasn't an official transcript. I could say it now, but but that's what it is. So
that's
you
so
leave.
Major. That's
how
so
many
major.
Credits did you leave with?
I couldn't even tell you. Probably like 40.
Okay, you leave with 40. Yeah. How much do they take?
They took half.
Half is actually not bad though, but it should have been at least 75%. But so they take half here in Miami-Dade.
But remember that FM, the first school I went to, I failed. There was nothing to transfer.
Oh, yeah. Start from scratch.
There was nothing to transfer. So I felt like I was constantly just starting from scratch.
Okay.
But I was making no progress. So once I got to Miami-Dade, I was
academic-wise. Because mentally, it looks like you're trying to find your
way. Mentally, I was always trying to figure it out. So it was always like putting a puzzle piece together. Like, okay, this don't fit here. Let me move this. Let me try this piece. I never quit. I always found another way to do whatever I was trying to get to. My goal was dentistry. I didn't know how I was going to get there. I don't know who was going to help me. I just knew that that's where I was going, no matter what. And when I got to Miami, I was like, all right. The games they played with me at those other community colleges, y'all was not about to play with me.
That's right, because you don't learn the game.
I learned.
You figured it out, right? And it's a beautiful thing when you figure it out, because it's like, now you ain't taking advantage of me anymore.
No, I'm not here to play with you, and I'm not here to ask you anything irrelevant. Like, when you go to an advisor and you go in for a specific thing, and then they give you a whole other explanation, because that's the issue that I ran into in Miami-Dade.
It's like giving me flashbacks. I remember 2015 in Brooklyn College. I went to the advisor. So, sometimes no matter what school, you still need like the English prereqs, this prereq. So there was a class called Puerto Rico and Latino Studies, PRLS. Okay. It's like a social studies class that everybody in Brooklyn College, and like the education, that's in psychology education, that's what we took. They only offered that class to freshmen. I'm a transfer student.
So you had the freedom?
I'm like, no. I'm like, you have to add this to the program. Well, you needed to graduate, but they only offer it to freshmen. Oh, but what's going to happen? Well, we don't know. It looks like we may have to keep you another semester. Now, What happens when you don't take 12 credits, right?
You don't get financial aid.
Yeah, and they charge you at a way different rate.
Yep.
Come to find out, I asked around, did my own research, and I remember from LIU, there was something called CLEP exams, right? And these CLEPs were basically tests that covered the class. So you get 4 months of a class in one test. You pay your money. I failed it the first time. I took it again, and here I am. But it goes to show you, when you don't know things, these institutions will take advantage of you, and they won't say anything about it.
Yep.
They won't say anything.
And they won't, and they don't care. Because it's just...
Right. It's kind of like all the money that's sitting in the scholarship in the bursar's office. And another thing, too, which I've experienced and you probably have, too, what you see online for a balance is never really 100% accurate because the system always takes so long to update. So that $2,000 you think you owe and you rush to pay it off, and then 2 weeks later it says zero.
Yep.
Then what? You know? So you're in Miami-Dade. What are you studying at this community college?
At the community college, I was in arts. So
Okay,
I was art, science.
So liberal arts,
Yeah,
liberal arts and sciences.
Yeah, so I was taking the English classes over that I had to take, the math, the algebras.
Yeah.
I took like 3 different algebra classes. And I was there for about a year and a half, right? I needed 10, I'm gonna just say I needed 10 credits to graduate. I didn't know, to get my associates. I didn't know that I was like prepared to graduate. I was just taking classes. So we went together, and I was looking, and the advisor was like, "Yeah, you just need 10 credits," and I was just like, "But I am taking 10 credits." She's like, "Yeah, you can graduate," and I was like, literally in like a month or 2, I was graduating, getting my AA, and then I transferred. Finally, made it to a university.
That's it. Welcome to the university
FIU,
club.
Florida International University. So I want to go back because you said something about financial aid and credits, right? So there's out-of-state tuition.
Of course. And explain to them what out-of-state tuition is.
Out-of-state tuition. If you are not a resident, if you have not lived somewhere for more than 12 months, you are not considered a resident. So you have to pay double the tuition that it would normally be. So I thought I prepared for this, right? Because
these people figure, because you're from another state, we got to charge you double because the books are way more expensive outside. Come on.
And we teach, like, don't even get me started down that rabbit hole. So I'm moving to Florida. Things happen personally, but I'm still figuring it out. Right. I knew that I had out-of-state tuition because it was the most cost efficient for me at the time. So I worked in New York. I made it was $2,000. I will never forget those $2,000. I made that money when I went to Miami. I paid it. I was like, I don't need anything else, whatever. I didn't necessarily have an address. So the next year when I was like, okay, I'm going to start as an in-state student, I had no proof, no address. So I didn't get my ID. I should have gotten ID when I moved there, but I had so much going on.
What about a bill in your name, anything?
Nothing, because I was just renting a space with friends that I knew.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, like, what was, like, the living situation like, if you don't mind me asking? Because, listen, we call it a spade.
Yeah.
I know you to be from, as Brooklyn people call it, we call it uptown. Because all the way up, but you live in Harlem.
Yeah.
You in Johnstown. Then you go to Poughkeepsie. We're going to have a conversation off the camera about these neighborhoods. You're wildin'. And you leave there and you go Miami, which is, but how are you affording to do this? Because I'm only thinking about, there's a young person or an older person who wants to be able to just start fresh somewhere else. How are you doing this?
Work. Work. So when I decided to move to Miami, I was going back and forth a lot. So I was figuring out the living situation. I was working at a restaurant, at a bar at the time, at a jazz bar at the time in Harlem. And my boss's granddaughter was from Miami. So I would ask her about, living costs, whatever, whenever I visited. Yeah. I figured that out. So in my mind, I calculated everything.
That's it.
I found an apartment that was reasonable, and I made enough money to cover me for the semester.
That's it.
Right? When I come down to Miami, I'm staying at my friend's house, my old boss's granddaughter's house. Right. And my broker disappeared on me. All my money gone, my deposit, the apartment, nobody, gone. So now I'm in Miami with nothing. All my money, my deposit, everything is gone. I'm not even working yet.
I would have had a little violent.
I had a mental breakdown.
I mean,
Like,
who wouldn't?
school is starting in a week. I'm thinking I'm moving into my place in 2 days. I'm staying with my friend at the time. I'm like in her room with her, like sharing her space, and this all transpires while I'm preparing for school to start.
And this broker,
some Jewish guy, I don't know. He helped me. I went to this company.
yeah.
I went to him. He's like, yeah, you just need this. Write the money order. I wrote the money order. I came back to New York. Mind you, I didn't even tell my parents I was moving until a week before.
Wow,
So,
that's a whole different.
Other thing. You might need another episode.
Yeah, you just like wild child. I'm out.
So I'm just like, because I didn't want anybody to give me like
shit about it. Yeah.
Or like their opinion, because nobody's done what I'm doing. So honestly, unsolicited advice. Sometimes you can take what people have to say and apply it to certain things, but a lot of the times people project
their fears onto you because they're afraid to jump that line. Ask me how I know. but you know, it's so special that you actually went through all of these things. Because without realizing, subconsciously, you're adding on to the person that I'm seeing right in front of me. All of these things that you went through, it built the character, it built the system, it built the, who is Sweetie? What is she about? If I keep throwing hurdles, how is she going to respond to it? So I'm not really big on cursing, but fuck that guy. That's crazy. I'm sorry, kids, but fuck that guy.
Yeah.
You know, because how dare you take advantage of someone? And this is kind of like my gripe with like the world. Not to be too much of a philosopher, but it's like, it's not that you're sitting on a couch harming people, doing all different types of bullshit throughout the day. You're literally trying to find your footing in the world, and you want to go about it the right way.
Yep.
You don't want to cut any corners.
Yep.
Some people cut corners. Whatever.
And that's the part. Yeah.
You don't want to cut.
You want to do it the right way.
You want to do it the right way. And then when you do it the right way,
things happen, and it makes you look at cutting corners like, the grass looks real green.
That ain't too bad over there.
Right.
So the money's gone. Can't reach out to the guy. You at your old boss's granddaughter's house.
Yeah. And I can't tell my parent this is happening, because the first thing they're gonna say is come back home.
That's it.
And to me, that was failure.
Yeah.
My first mistake. To think that when things don't go right, like you failed, and you don't always have to thug it out.
You're right.
You don't always have to thug it out. Like, you can always ask for help, and you can always start over. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
I just don't like when it's held over my head.
But that's me.
That's my pride.
But that's why the people that's around you is important. The kind of people, the quality of people.
The village. So I'm really interested. So you realize all of this happens. You have the breakdown. What's like running through your mind?
What's that thing online that like, I got to figure out how to get 10K by tomorrow.
10K by tomorrow.
So in my mind, I'm like, my car, I had a car, but my parents had shipped it because I told them so late. My car wasn't coming until the next month. So I'm using my roommate's car to take them to work and go to school. Now I'm like, okay, I'm going to figure things out. But school starts in a few days. I got to go to school. So they were kind enough, and I owe them
the world,
like everything. They were like, just stay. If you want.
Shit.
Like, God, one thing about God and like my relationship with God got so strong in Miami, because every time I thought it was like over, it was like a little something.
And that's this.
Like
this
much is all you need. Jacket, like here.
So it's so strange that you say that. A couple of weeks ago, I went to church. I don't really go to church.
Yeah.
And I became a godfather again.
Congrats.
Thank you. And the sermon was about having the faith the size of a mustard seed. That all you need is this much amount of faith. You can literally like move a mountain, you know? And the craziest part about it is, where are we without this little bit of faith? Because it could have been over. If you fell into the negativity, it's like...
Yeah, and even when you do, there's always that...
You know? Mustard seed.
There's always that. And they were like, yo, we love you. Like, we love having you here. Like, stay. Don't worry about nothing. Go to school. Do what you have to do. And I was I used to go pick them up after work when I got out of class. And one day somebody got fired. Long story short, I got hired where they were working at. And I was taking care of the electric bill. So that's how I got my footing in Miami.
And I mentioned a bill before. I'm like, yo, you ain't taking
Yeah,
care.
so then I got my ish together, right?
Yes,
I got
sir.
my ID. They put something in my name. I finally became a resident, but it took me that year. So what I
Absolutely.
had to do was take a semester off to work to pay that extra 2,000 because I literally had nothing.
Don't be afraid to take that semester off.
Don't
Don't be afraid to take that.
don't be
Do not
afraid to
force
take.
it. Because
Yeah.
if you force it and it doesn't work out, you got to do all them credits again the following year. Do not force it.
You fail harder when you try. And that's another thing about shortcuts. Sometimes you think you're taking the shorter route. Sometimes you think you're paying less for something and you end up paying more with time. And one thing about time and money, those are two things that I've learned to respect.
You know you have to respect them because it's like a car. You have a car, the car needs to be fixed. You don't buy the right part, you buy a cheap off-brand part. You'll spend the next couple of months. And the money that you keep pouring into that, if you did it right the first time,
that would have been it.
That would have been it. But it's a human thing.
Yeah, it's even smaller. You buy a cheap charger. How many cheap
right.
chargers you go through?
Cheap chargers going strong. Well, you know, thank God for Amazon. But no, it's a very valid point, and I want the listeners to really grasp the fact of knowing when to take things seriously, learning when to put your best foot forward, no matter what you believe in. Have some faith.
Yeah.
Right. So you're technically, and I'm not gonna call them strangers. But
yeah,
you're living with people who barely know you. Part of me likes to think they see you driving, they want to take a chance on you. Those little support systems. So now you got the residency, you paid off, you back in school. Now, what's the grades like now? Because my assumption is like now you should be hitting the ground running.
You would think that.
Yeah. No.
You would think that.
I would hope so.
Now I get into the prereqs.
Yeah.
So for dentistry, we're trying to get into dentistry. There are very specific prerequisite courses that you need. So there's English, you need 1 and 2.
Yeah.
You need biology 1 and 2. You need general chemistry 1 and 2.
No orgo, right?
Orgo 1 and 2.
Organic chemistry.
Physics 1 and 2. With some schools, calculus and statistics.
Why do you need physics? Whatever. Yeah.
So I started taking those courses.
I hope you didn't take more than 2 science classes at a time.
Yes, I had to because
that's like career suicide.
Through my, so I've been told that, but through my hopping around schools, I had already taken.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you know
all the English, all the histories, anthropologies, humanities, whatever you could think of. All I had left was these science classes.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So now I go from the algebras, the English, these classes that I was struggling to the bios.
Yeah, plant cell versus animal cell.
Yeah. Genetics.
Yep.
Physics. Physics with or without calculus. That was another thing. And then wild. Because I took so many different algebras, I was like, I'm done with math. Yeah. I know I needed calculus, but I had an alternative to take stats, so that's what I did.
Stats was good. F tables, Z tables.
Yeah, I went with stats, and I struggled because I had to work.
Well, that's the only reason why you struggled? I struggled. I was barely going to work.
That was the first.
Stats is just
that was the first struggle because I had to pay things. I had to eat. I had to get to class. I had to pay for gas.
Yes.
I had to get my basic necessities. So working.
You also gotta enjoy your life too.
And then in Miami,
let's not forget.
Living in Miami and going to school is, you gotta be very strong. You gotta be like, I'm going to class. I'm not going to the beach today. I'm going to class. Crazy. I'm not going to the beach today. But
I was in New York and I wasn't even strong. I'll be on my way to class and I'll be at somebody's restaurant midday. So listen, I get it.
The great thing is like on hard days when you meet these people in these classes, because everybody is pre-med, pre-dental, pre-farm, pre-something medical, right? So we would all have like a beach day or something. Because I was a commuter student, what they consider a commuter student, and I was older, I had a hard time trying to connect with people because in my mind, I'm like, I'm not carpooling with you. I don't have time to go play these games. Like I gotta
you're like
work.
The grown woman in the
group.
Like
I'm an adult.
You're
like
an adult.
I gotta get to work. I got responsibilities. Like nobody's taking care of me. Like it's just me and this dream. And so working and also trying to have fun and trying to have a social life and trying to balance things and dealing with my own traumas and my own thing, I didn't always perform how I was supposed to. But once I got to the science classes, I did well. Don't get me wrong. I did well, but I struggled in other areas.
Right.
So when I got to FIU, I took all the prereqs, but my science GPA still wasn't strong enough. It wasn't strong enough. I didn't join any clubs. So when you want to go to any professional school, you got to join clubs. You got to do community service. You got to be a part of e-boards. You got to be this philanthropy, like this whole amazing person.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
Because you're also building
a resume,
an
like,
academic one.
yeah.
And that academic resume, for those who are in the world of academia, that academic resume takes you to the next level.
Yeah.
That resume ain't packed, you ain't going nowhere.
Mm-hmm. Like, who are you outside of this, as well as in this?
Absolutely. I always tell people, school is such a different world. It's such a different world. Now, you have kids who have the luxury of just being in school. And then you have us who just have the luxury of being adults in school, right? So it's still school, work, social life, figuring it out, mental health, physical health, pizza, margaritas. Like, like that's
happy
the whole
hour.
thing. Happy hour. Happy hour becomes your best friend. I always say and I'm not giving financial advice, but until you have $60 left in your account and you figure out there's a happy hour and you're able to get wings and margaritas after margaritas, life for that brief moment, life is phenomenal.
Everything's okay.
Everything is okay. Everything's going to be okay until you check that account the next morning. Because now you got to figure out how to live off $7 from Wednesday to Saturday.
Yeah, and that's the other commitment to academic that you make. Because I wasn't folding, I wasn't going to sacrifice my credits because I couldn't get under 12 credits because then financial aid wasn't going to cover it. But I can't make less hours because then I don't have enough to pay for my everyday expenses. Just gas alone. Forget shampoo, conditioner, hair care.
God forbid you just want to look nice. God forbid.
You know what I mean? So it's just like it made me, Miami truly made me a woman, I would say.
It transformed you.
Going to Miami is like New York made me, raised me, but Miami tried that shit. Miami was like, oh yeah, let me add a little bit of this. And because I'm so proud of being from here. Being Dominican, I'm proud of, but being from New York, it's just like I have so much fight in me. Like, I don't just go down. Like, you can't just tell me no, and that's just it for me.
I think that's due to exposure, because I always have this thing with my coworkers, and I always tell them certain things that I've seen. I don't think I was supposed to see it, but it just seems so normal. For example, and this is a bad example. It's a good one too.
And if I can relate to it,
yeah, and I'm telling you, it's kind of like you see a crackhead, bugging out on the corner. You walk past them. If they say good morning to you, you'll say good morning back. Mm-hmm. Nowhere is that normal.
I know.
It is not. It is nowhere remotely normal. But it's like the minute when you don't see the crackhead on the corner, you're like, yo, where he at? Like, what's going on? So you like innately have like a care for somebody who you don't even know, but because that's what you came up seeing. And obviously the crackhead is really like a little microcosm of just anything to do with exposure. Because it's like the things that you expose yourself to, you learn how to deal with them. So if you move to a new environment and you have no exposure, you're gonna suffer until you expose yourself to all the different elements. And then when you become accustomed to it, then it's like, okay, I can put my foot down, I can operate, I can maneuver how I want.
That's another thing. We so fast here. I never knew what anxiety was until I moved to Miami. I felt like I had to slow down to catch up with just how everybody and everything was. Like, people walking slow and strolling and chilling and relaxing. And I was just like, I felt like a crackhead.
Yeah,
like, I was just literally.
Like, don't do drugs, kids.
No.
Weird. But that's the scary feeling, because you move at a certain pace. This is the only city in the world people walk and eat. People walking whole sandwiches, burgers,
like
fries.
We are always in motion.
Always
like
in motion.
At all times, we're always in motion. So what I had slowing down taught me a lot too. Like I learned a lot in that. I was just like, okay, I'm trying to rush school and I'm doing bad real fast. I'm like, all right, slow down. Take your time. What do you need? I've been to advisors that told me to do another career. Go do something else because you're how old? I was 22 at the time. They were telling me at 22 that I was already too old to pursue dentistry, that I should have did something that was quicker and faster and I could make money. That wasn't the goal. Like I could make money doing anything. I want to be a dentist. I'm gonna be a dentist. I didn't come to your office for a detour or an easy way out. I came here for guidance, and that's my problem. So when I got to FIU and I started taking the science courses and I got into the world of science, meeting more people in science, Latin, Black, Indian, the it gets broader as far as ethnicity and race, but it's still very like niche.
It is.
Because there's like this little weird hierarchy. Because then you got the honors students, and you have the students that are taking college classes. You have the 15-year-olds that are in high school taking college classes, and then you go through that confidence thing, and then you start thinking about, damn, if I would have known, if I could have did, and then
if I would have, I could have.
Yeah.
But I always say, no two people have the luxury of starting life in the same place.
That's true.
You know, it's always so funny when you're in school, and whatever class you take in, you see like the aura of the classroom, and then you see that one person in the class that you guys just click because I know y'all come from the same thing, and I know you have that person in your life currently because you're not just paying attention. And I don't want to get to the village question now, but that best friend you have, that partner, first of all, shout out her name, but what does she mean to you as somebody that's on that journey with you?
She's like a light. She's a light for me because you can speak to people. I always get emotional with her.
Let me get this issue.
It's the whole world for me.
Don't worry, my mom cuts them.
Okay, my mom does the same thing. It's an island thing.
You know that?
So she's not the. So there's two people that I met,
right?
But I didn't meet them till my master's because I recently just got
Absolutely.
my master's, and that was after FIU. I was planning to go straight into dental, but that wasn't enough. So meeting her during the master's program was just like, you ever underwater and then you come up and that first gasp was just like, oh shit, it's not just me. Like I felt seen, I felt understood, I felt like, all right, I got somebody that I'm going on this road with, and it's so lonely. It's so lonely because everybody else pursuing other things, nursing, teaching, law, shit, front desk, entrepreneurship, real estate, whatever. But this path for me has been so lonely and so just isolating.
You like, oh shit, you struggling
and I was just
too?
like, you know, when you in the desert and they say like you see water and it's not really water, but when you see someone and you're just like, oh shoot, like where you going? Oh, I'm going over here. Oh, me too. And it's just she's so type A too, like, and I'm so type B personality that she brought so much structure into my life that I needed that routine because I was so routine average. Like I was just like, I don't need routine. Like I've been figuring this thing out, and she's just like, that's not gonna work here. Like you gotta become something different.
Structured, yes.
Like who you were got you here, but it's not gonna get you to where you trying to go. You need to turn it all the way up.
And that's the person who holds your hand as you guys walk through the fire together.
Yeah.
You know, so many times people gotta go through this by themselves. And you wonder why people are so recluse, you know, especially in college, you know. They don't really want to socialize with anybody, they don't want to study. And it's not to take an offense, but they're going through so much outside of the school. And then it's like sometimes, and I know me myself personally, when I went through a lot of things outside of school, school is like the beacon. I could get out of school. But then it's like you're in school and you're struggling too. And I'm just like, you know, so that person that we all, and I hope, you know, everybody finds, especially in school,
So you gotta find your
person,
tribe.
yeah, that's the person who's just gonna grab your hand and be like, nah, like we good, like I got this. I made the flashcards. I had that person my last year, not even like when I started grad school. You know, it was we were in a group together on Zoom, and then the professor came in and I made a joke, and he was like, "Oh, you guys are always saying like, yeah, that's my cousin. Shout out Chantel Rodriguez." And I'm talking all the group assignments, everything like together. And I eventually, you know, and she had a husband, 2 kids, trying to figure it out too.
When
Her own personal life. And you meet these,
when
and
you meet
yeah,
those people, like in my master's program, one of the top students was a mother.